Let's begin today's class. Last class, we talked about the city image and its elements. Today, we are going to dive into something really interesting, life between buildings. We will be exploring how the public spaces around us, like streets, parks, and plazas, actually influence the way we interact with others and shape our daily lives. All right, before we jump into today's topic, let's take a quick look back at what we covered last class on city image. We talked about how a city imageabilities or how easily we can picture it, and its legibility, which is how well we can find our way around. Both play a big part in shaping how we experience the city. We also looked at Kevin Lynch's five key elements that defines a city image: paths, edges, district, nodes, and landmarks. These are the things that help us make sense of the space around us and give cities them structure, making them feel more organized, memorable, and easier to navigate. Since our topic today is life between buildings, it's important to know that Jan Geels is a key figure who really brought attention to this idea. Geel is a Danish architect and the founder of Geel Architects. He also a professor of urban design at the Royal Danish Academies of Fine Arts in Copenhagen. His main focus has always been improving the quality of urban life, especially by redesigning cities to put pedestrians and cyclists first. One of his most influential books, Life Between Buildings, was first published in 1971, and that's what we will be exploring today. So let's talk about why John Gale write Life Between Buildings. After World War II, cities started to prioritize cars over people. This shift led to what called car-centric urban planning. Everything was built with cars in mind: big road, parking lot, and it makes cities feel more functional and much less personal. As a result, public space become emptier and felt unsafe. Fewer people were spending time outside, and there were fewer opportunities for casual interactions, which are essential for a vibrant community. John was really concerned about this trend. He believes that cities were forgetting about human needs. He wanted to remind urban planners that cities should be designed for people, not just cars. His idea was to focus on creating spaces where people could gather, interact, and feel a sense of community. That's why he wrote Life Between Buildings to promote human-centered design that encourage social interaction and make cities more livable. His central idea of this book is that human life thrives in well-designed public spaces. These spaces aren't just the areas we pass through, like street or plaza. They are where real life happens. Public spaces are essential for creating environments where people can interact, socialize, and build communities. These aren't just a path to get from point A to point B. Instead, they are vibrant, multifunctional spaces where people's paths meet and engage with one another. Jiang emphasizes that public spaces should encourage spontaneous social interactions, giving people a space not only move through, but also to stay, talk, and connect with others. This is what Jiang means by the life between cities. It's the activity, interactions, and connection that happens in those in-between spaces. Okay, let's dive into the John Gale's 12 criteria for quality of place. These criteria help us understand what makes a public space truly work for people. The first set of criteria is about protection, including protection against traffic and accidents, protection against crimes and violence, and a protection against unpleasant sense experiences. Let's start with protection from traffic. Young Gill stresses that public spaces should be safe for pedestrians and cyclists. This means having pedestrian zones, back lanes, and using ways to slow down traffic, like traffic calming methods, so people feel secure as they move through these spaces. This picture shows how a combination of safety features, such as clear signage, brightly colored crosswalks, and strategically placed roundabout, can be used to enhance safety in public spaces. These elements help guide both drivers and pedestrians to reduce vehicle speeds and create a more organized and secure environment for everyone. Next is protection from crime. John Gill talks about how designing spaces can naturally make people feel safer. He emphasizes that public spaces should be lived in and actively used. The more people are around, the safer the space becomes. This ideas of street life is important because when there are a lot of people around, whether they are walking, sitting, or just passing through, it naturally makes a space feel safer. Gill also talk about the ideals of street watchers, people like shop owners, residents, or just passerby who keep eyes on things. It's not formal security, but the presence is enough to discourage crime because someone is always around. Another big thing he stresses is having overlapping functions in space and time. So instead of a space being empty during part of the day, it should have different uses throughout. Maybe it's a market in the morning, a social space in the afternoon, and a gathering spot in the evening. This keeps people coming and going at all time, which add to the feeling of safety and make space more vibrant overall. Finally, there's protection from unpleasant sensory experiences. This means make sure that a space is comfortable to be in by reducing things like noise, pollution, and other environmental discomfort. This idea is to create an environment where people feel good, can relax, and enjoy the time without distractions. For instance, wind can make an outdoor space feel uncomfortable, uh, especially in open areas. Proper design can block or redirect wind, making the space more pleasant. Similarly, protection from rain and snow is essential, with features like covered walkways or sheltered sitting areas allowing people to continue using this space even in bad weather. In order to reduce noise pollution from nearby busy roads and highways, one efficient solution is to use green buffers such as rows of trees, shrubs, or other vegetation. These natural barriers not only absorb sound but also improve air quality. Another common strategy is the creation of pedestrian zones where car access is restricted to or eliminated entirely in certain areas. These car-free zones reduce both noise and air pollution, encouraging people to walk, cycle, or gather in more peaceful environment. Urban planners also use water features like mountains or ponds to mask urban noise and create a more quiet environment. Now we move on to the comfort criteria, which are all about making public space inviting and enjoyable for everyone. This category including possibilities of walking, standing, sitting, hearing, and play. First, we have opportunities to walk. Creating a pedestrian-friendly space is essential for encouraging walking as a primary mode of transportation and leisure. To support this, public space should feature clear, well-maintained pathways that allow people to move around easily and comfortably. These paths should be wide enough to accommodate foot traffic and ideally be separated from vehicle lanes for safety. It's also important that walking routes are pleasant and interesting. Providing shade through street vegetation, sitting areas, and engaging storefront or public art along the way can make walking more enjoyable and encourage people to walk more often. Next is opportunity to stand or sit. This is a creating inviting edges. There is something called the edge effect, which means that people tend to feel more comfortable near edges of a place uh, rather than standing in the middle, where they might feel a bit exposed. Designing specific spot for standing or sitting encourage people to pause, whether they are waiting for someone watching the world go by or just taking a break. Things like benches, sitting walls, planters, or ledges give people a reason to linger. Adding features like shade, plants, or even public art can make this spot even more attractive. People are more likely to gather and relax in spaces that feel welcoming. Then there's opportunities to sit. Creating places to sit is super important in public spaces because it encourages people to hang out and enjoy the area. When designing sitting areas, it's important to consider both primary and secondary seating. Primary seating includes traditional benches and chairs, where secondary seatings is more informal, like wide ledges, steps, or the edges of planters where people naturally tend to sit. Sometimes we also need to provide benches that allow people to lay down and rest. We also have opportunities to sit, which is about offering clear sightlines and unhindered views. This includes making sure that a good seeing distance. People can look out over a space without anything blocking the view. For example, a wide open plaza with long sidelines allow people to feel more comfortable and aware of their surroundings. In contrast, spaces with many visual barriers, like large walls, dense vegetations, or narrow alleyway, can feel enclosed or unsafe. It's important to create interesting visuals. This can be as simple as people watching, where people observe the interactions and activities as others pass by or gather. Architecture features such as unique buildings, monument, or public art can also capture attention and serve as focal points within the space. Additionally, natural landscape, green spaces, trees, gardens, or water features offer visual relief from the urban environment. Possibilities to see also include having good lighting at night, so people can enjoy the space safely even after dark. Lighting can also make a space more interesting. Creating lightings can highlight buildings, cast cool shadows, or even act as its own kind of public art. Next is probabilities for hearing and talking. This means keeping noise level low and having bench arrangements that create comfortable spaces for conversations, what we call talk space. When one great example is using movable chair and tables. They let people rearrange them sittings or to face each other or move to quieter areas, which makes conversations feel more comfortable and natural. So last, we have got probabilities for play and activities. This is about creating spaces that invite people to be active, whether it's to play, access, or just having fun. These areas should be designed to get people interacting. Thinking about playgrounds for kids, sports fields, or even open spaces where people can access or gather for events. What's important here is that these spaces need to work both during the day and at night. You want to have areas that are well lit for evening activities, such as outdoor concerts or movies. And of course, they need to work year around. In the summer, maybe you have shaded areas to escape the heat. And in the winter, spaces that can be used for things like skating. The goal is to create a space where people want to come and spend time, no matter the season or time of day. Now let's move on to the amenity criteria. These include scale, the probability of enjoying the positive aspect of the climate, aesthetic qualities, and positive sensory experiences. First, we talk about scale. For young girl, one of the most important factors in designing successful public space is making sure they are built at a human scale. We need to ensure that the size of buildings, streets, and the city areas feel comfortable and welcoming for people. The space should feel approachable, not overwhelming. You can see how different height and width ratio influence people's feeling. A 1 to 2 ratio means that the width of the street or open space is twice the height of the surrounding buildings. This creates a more open feel. A 1 to 5 or 1.5 1.5 ratio still provides a comfortable amount of openings, but begin to bring buildings a bit closer, which can make a space feel more balanced and enclosed. A one-to-one ratio gives the space a more intimate, cozy feel as buildings are closer in proportions to the width of the street. This scale makes the environment feel more human-sized, help people feel more connected to their surroundings. So, which street do you feel more comfortable walking on? I give you a few seconds to think about it. Okay, in the first image, the building height and the street width are uh, proportionately to the height of people. You are closer to the buildings, everything feel approachable, and it's easier to engage with the space. But in the second image, the street is much wider and the buildings are taller, making pedestrians feel small and disconnected. This space makes people feel less safe and welcoming. Next, young girls emphasize the possibilities for joining a positive aspect of the climate. This means designing public spaces that take advantage of good aspects of the climate. Whether it's summers or winter, public space should have a balance of shade for hot days and a sunny spot for colder days. Finally, let's talk about aesthetic quality, or what Younger called the positive sensory experiences. This go beyond just making public space visually appealing. It's also about creating an environment that engages all of our senses. For example, the sound of water from a fountain can create a calming atmosphere, and the uh, sound of the flowers or greeneries makes the air feel fresh. Additionally, incorporating elements like plants and vegetations that people can touch add another layer of interaction. Next, let's talk about John Gale's three type of activities that happens in public spaces. These include necessary, optional, and social activities. Let's look at necessary activities, which are basically the things people have to do. They are more or less compulsory. Some examples include going to schools for work, shopping, waiting for a bus, or running errands. The physical environment might not have a huge impact on these activities because they happen year-round in any weather. People will be out doing this task regardless of how inviting the space is, simply because they have to. For optional activities, these are the things people choose to do if they have the time and if the environment makes it enjoyable. For example, taking a walk to get some fresh air, standing around enjoying life, or sitting outside to get some sun. The key difference with optional activity is that they only happen when the exterior conditions are good. So, if the space is inviting and comfortable, people are more likely to stay and engaged in these activities. This is where urban design plays a big role. In space with poor qualities, you will notice that people only do what absolutely necessary, like walking quickly to get home. But in high quality spaces where the environment is well designed, people are more likely to stop, sit, eat, play, and enjoying the surroundings. So the better the space, the more likely you will see a wide range of optional activity happening. Finally, let's talk about social activities. This includes things like children playing, greeting, and conversations, and uh, communal activities. Even passive contact, just seeing and hearing other people, counts as a social activity. What's interesting about the social activity is that it happens on the presence of other people and tend to happen spontaneously. They are what we call resultant activities because they happen as a result of other two types, necessary and optional activities. So when public space are designed well, giving people better conditions for necessary and optional activity, social activity naturally follow. The kind of social interaction varies depending on the context. For examples, in city street and centers, social activities may be more superficial, like a brief greeting or just seeing others. But even that contribute to a healthier, more vibrant public space. Okay, let's dive a bit deeper into what kind of places and relationships forms in the life between buildings. In these spaces, we often experience low intensity contact. Low intensity contact are the kind of interactions that might seem small but actually play a crucial role in our daily lives. It helps to think of this as a spectrum of interaction. You can see here. To start with passive contact, like simply seeing and hearing people around you. Then there are chance encounters, like bumping into someone on the street. Over time, this can grow into friendships and even more close relationships. When we look at outdoor spaces, you can actually see a clear link between how well designed a space is and the frequency of activity. If the quality of an outdoor areas is good, then optional activities happens more often. And there's the interesting part. As the number of optional activities increases, the amount of social interactions also rise significantly. This means that better the space, the more likely people are to stay, interact, and engage with others. They can turn space into a lively social environment. Okay, that's it for today's class. Next class, we will talk about the toward an urban design manifesto. See you.